This is Gotham TV Podcast episode 121 about Gotham: A Dark Knight, Season 4, Episode 16, One of My Three Soups.
This is Drew Powell, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lloyd Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
I'm David Mazuz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, fellow detectives. Welcome back, Gothamites, to Gotham TV Podcast episode 121, where we are looking at one of my three soups, Heinz, Campbell's, and Knorr. Yes, this is episode 16 of season 4 of Gotham. Well, not one of my three soups, which would probably be chicken, broccoli, and cheese, and then probably minestrone.
Oh, right. Okay.
Clam chowder, actually. Give good old clam chowder, yeah.
Very good. I'd probably go for some tomato soup in there as well, maybe mushroom soup. I'm one of your other hosts, Derek. Welcome back, Gothamites. Sorry for being a little bit delayed, but a very happy Easter to anybody that celebrates it. Hope you enjoyed it. Got filled up on eggs while waiting for our podcast to come out. We had a little bit of a delay. Did you have a good Easter, John?
Yes, I did. It was good fun. Lots of chocolate, lots of Easter eggs, lots of lambykins. Yes, had a really good time. Yes, apologies for the delay, Gothamites. We had family and friends visiting, so yes, we are now here recording episode 16 of Gotham. An interesting title with one of my three soups, because obviously there were 3 bowls of soup in this, but it also, I suppose, metaphorically speaking, speaks to Arkham's finest, as it was tagged in the official synopsis of this episode of Gotham. Jervis Tetch, the Scarecrow, and of course Jerome Velasquez. So the big 3 are in this episode, and they have escaped from Arkham. So yes, spoiler alert, everyone.
You usually do that before.
I do normally, yes. But spoiler alert, indeed, this will be a spoiler-filled review and discussion of this episode of Gotham.
Yes, as always, if you want to find out anything about the podcast, just pop on over to GothamTVPodcast.com. There's loads of subscribe links over there where you can subscribe to the podcast on any good or evil podcast catcher. Come and join us over our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/GothamTVPodcast as we get into the second half of this half of the season. How many episodes left now, John? Just 6 episodes left?
I know. I'm really kind of wishing there were more, to be honest, because this has been a fine season 4 of Gotham. And speaking of season 4, we have, just as a reminder, we always like to just do a little reminder now and then of our line, scene, person, character of the week competition for this season. Please send in your thoughts so that we can discuss them live on the podcast. And of course, we will have our big final draw at the end of season 4 of Gotham.
Yes.
Where you will be in with a chance, if you are pulled from the hat of chance, to be in with a chance of winning the prize, which is a figurine of Oswald Cobblepot.
Yes, looking forward to that. That's being released in June, so it'll be out a little bit after our podcast finishes up, but we'll make sure that our winner gets it during the summertime after Gotham Season 4 has finished. A little bit of feedback that came in over on Twitter that I just thought was lovely, so I thought I'd pick it up. From Teresa Z Photos on Twitter says, "My first podcast last week, and it's about the best episode of Gotham of this season. Fun podcast. Looking forward to the next one. Love the Detective Comics from 1938 in the opening scene. Thanks so much, guys."
Thank you so much, Teresa. It's so good that you have come on board and joined Gotham TV Podcast. Yes,
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, tell your friends. Never too late to join the podcast. We've got 120 episodes talking all about Gotham since way before Gotham even started. In fact, I think since before some of the main cast was actually cast in the show.
Yes, indeed. And of course, as always, share the love, share the podcast to friends, family, relatives, and who else you would like to share Gotham TV Podcast. The longest running podcast all about Gotham.
Exactly.
But I think with that, on to our spoiler-filled review. Derek, but what are some of the episode details for one of my three soups?
Well, the episode was directed by Ben McKenzie, his second directorial job on Gotham, and he's also had a writing credit previously on the show, in case you weren't aware of it. Some great moments in this episode. I'm not going to spoil your future rating, John, but he has a lot to live up to. His previous episode that he wrote got a 5 out of 5 from you, and his episode that he directed got a 5 out of 5 for you. I wonder, can he keep the streak up?
I wonder. Keep tuned, listeners, to the end of this review.
Yes. And the episode was written by Charlie Houston, who wrote episode 8 of this season, the one that I love saying out loud. Stop hitting yourself, John.
Stop hitting yourself.
What did they give us, John? Do you want to tell us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Tetch, Jerome, Scarecrow, and the rest of the inmates in the asylum escape into Gotham. As Jim and Harvey respond to the breakout, Jervis Tetch gives them a run for their money, hypnotizing hundreds of Gotham citizens to stand on rooftops. At the strike of 12, they fly. Meanwhile, Bruce, with help from Selina, devises his own strategy to thwart Jerome and bring him back into custody. Bruce tracks him to his Uncle Zach's diner, but his intervention allows Jerome to escape once again, and this time with valuable information about an unknown person at the school of St. Ignatius. As Gotham goes to rack and ruin, Barbara finally discovers her calling and the events of her resurrection at the hands of Ra's al Ghul. She is the demon's head, and she will command the League of Shadows. As the hour nears midnight, Jim realizes Tetch's deception, as he has programmed his victims to jump as the clock strikes 12, or if they are told not to. But Jim manages to apprehend Tetch at WZPZ radio station and finds a loophole, saving the intended victims, including Harvey Bullock. However, on his return journey to Arkham, Tetch is rescued by Scarecrow and Jerome, as it is revealed that another sleight of hand was deployed on Gotham by the evil Trinity.
Excellent. Lots and lots of stuff going on in this episode. I'm still not too sure whether the call sign for radio station works too well in our European mouths. The WZPZ turned into WZPZ. It doesn't sound as showy as it does in the US.
I should have said WZPZ. It does trip off the tongue much better than WZPZ, I think.
It just kind of drops a little bit when you've got a European voice towards it.
It's like whether you use a soup spoon or a normal dessert spoon to have your soup.
It's always a soup spoon. Nice catch there, John.
Or is it?
Let's get into our case notes for the episode. We got to start out right at the start in the escape from Gotham. As John mentioned, we did have friends and family over with us this weekend, and they, luckily enough, watched this episode of Gotham with us. A shocking opening to the episode, which led to a bit of a shout out of, oh my God, is this how serious and violent Gotham's getting?
Yes, it was the domino effect from Tetch to Scarecrow to Jerome, with guards being slit open left, right, and centre, including the guard who has, interestingly and intelligently, has put on her Sony Walkman. I did think of Guardians of the Galaxy at this moment, where she had her orange headset on, her Sony Walkman playing, singing along to the tune as she walks down the corridor, with the guards looking at her as she moves into Tetch's cell, so she cannot be hypnotized by him through his dulcet sounding tones.
It was fabulous, wasn't it? I love that moment as he's mouthing these words that she can't hear and then goes, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the person behind you. Very brutal kill at the opening of the episode, but a nice way to reintroduce Jervis Tetch. We've seen him in the background of quite a few episodes in the past season. He hasn't had a big moment really in the last little while, so he's been kind of hiding out in Arkham. To be honest, I wasn't sure whether he was back in Arkham, which speaks to the other major character here. We knew that Scarecrow had gone on the loose after his last attack, where he was forced to do the will of the attackers, of his former friends of his father's, I think they were, who knew all about him and had forced him on the city of Gotham, and then he just disappeared into the night, effectively. But it looks like he's been brought back to Arkham by the GCPD in another adventure that we didn't get to see.
Yes. Interestingly as well, the tune being played through the headphones of the guard was Fool for You by Alice Smith. And she was a fool because, yes, as you quite rightly say, Derek, she was not being talked to by Tetch, but he was talking to Tortuga, who then kills her and allows all this domino effect of escaped inmates, and in particular the big three. Scarecrow, who's brewing up in the loo a particular potion. Is it his fear gas? Possibly.
I think that's what he used to break the lock to let Jerome out, wasn't it? It was some explosives that he was. And I'd love to know how he got access to those chemicals.
And then finally, Jerome, who basically tells Tetch that he should ditch the weirdo. She's giving him the heebie-jeebies. And so, yes, Tortuga, you did well, but no cigar. Unfortunately, she kills herself.
Yes.
Again, more blood, more gore, and that is part of the reason why we absolutely love Gotham. There are no prisoners.
And all before the opening credits. It's
literally great. No prisoners, actually, in Arkham Asylum.
That is true. They're getting them back, though. It's good. I love the touch that they have Tetch still with his paper hat, his paper version of the Mad Hatter's hat on his head. He has the 10-6 price sign on the side of his hat. And as you probably noticed, we talked about it last time we saw him on screen. The number for Jervis Tetch in Arkham Asylum is 106. It's C106, and that is the price that's on his hat in the Mad Hatter costume. So some nice little touches there to keep him going with that costume from the comic books.
One thing I did like here as well was just the fact that we've got here three really big characters from the Gotham universe all teaming up, but I did like the nod to the fact we have time to double cross one another at a later point.
Yes.
But at the moment, we need to keep together, and I really like that notion that they brought in here, because yes, it is not normally this happy altogether that was characterized by these three villains coming together to extract their revenge on Gotham, on Arkham Asylum, on Jim Gordon in particular, on maybe Bruce Wayne. There's a lot of motives here being put into the mix from these three, and it's all coming together here in this episode of Gotham. But I think with that, case note 2, the Wedding Crasher, to whom the wrecking ball tolls.
I just had to call it this. Had to call it the Wedding Crasher. This is quite interesting, this idea that Jim walks up, sees Tetch in the street, has the couple sitting underneath the wrecking ball. Wow, I'm not sure if Miley Cyrus had this in mind when she sang her world famous song. But it's a nice little touch, because one of the first times that Tetch was at Jim Gordon was when he had set up a whole plan where you had a wedding couple standing on the top of a bridge and a young boy standing in front of a van, and he gave Jim the choice as to whether to save the couple or whether to save the child. That was back in Follow the White Rabbit, back in episode 6 of season 3, where he gives them that choice as to which to save, and it is the married couple that plunge to their deaths as Jim saves the young boy. Once again here, as Jim is put in front of this married couple, he wonders what the choice is that Jervis is giving to him, and is told, this time there are no choices, Jim. You don't get to be the one that saves them. I loved the commentary online that I saw about the last episode about Follow the White Rabbit, where it was saying, is this a representation of Jim because he's a person that's afraid of commitment, that married people keep dying around him? He's had a lot of bad experiences in churches with Barbara Keane dressed up in her wedding dress, pointing a gun at him. He's killed a man on his wedding day. Is this all a big allegory for how Jim is afraid of commitment? Is that what a lot of Gotham is being over time?
I think it might be. I have to say, I wonder truly if Gotham is getting to me, because seeing the Wedding Crasher wrecking ball literally just fall on top of them, I was like going, oh my God, they actually did that.
Yeah.
But then I slightly burst into fits of giggles when seeing like the legs sticking out and the bride dress and the bridegroom just kind of still underneath there with the blood up the wrecking ball. So, yes, I wonder, is Gotham changing me? My morbid sense of humor really is being given a good run for its money from Gotham, and I must say I really, really like it, I have to say. I also kind of like the idea that Tetch called Harvey Bullock a rusty caboose in tow as well. I thought that was really good. And to be honest though, here I definitely thought that this was still all about revenge for Alice. You know, it still raged through Tetch, and here we were getting this setup for Jim. So for Tetch to really just drop the ball on this couple, this newly married couple, you know, they certainly didn't make their first anniversary. Maybe they didn't even make their first hour of marriage.
Yeah.
But certainly, I really did think that the three big villains kind of were going their separate ways here. And of course, we will come to that a bit later in the podcast.
Yeah, it does really feel like a personal vendetta between Mad Hatter and Jim. It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that for all of the villains that are in Gotham, there doesn't seem to be anybody that has that real personal relationship with Jim. I know, obviously, we have Oswald Cobblepot calling him old friend all the time, but it feels like Tetch is out to get Jim Gordon at all times. It seems like he's his perfect nemesis, as opposed to all of the other villains that are in the city. Jim takes them down, and they will come back in future to be a nemesis for Bruce Wayne, probably. But it feels like Jervis Tetch is purpose-built as being someone that goes after Jim, and there's a real reason for it. You know, so I love seeing these two characters interact in the show. It's really, really good to see them. And he seems to just really twist the knife in Jim, especially as we see Harvey is the one that has to save the day and take that big moment where he puts himself in harm's way and sacrifices himself in order for Jim to save the day here.
Yeah, because it pans back here from this immediate wrecking ball incident with the wedding couple, and it becomes a bigger thing, really, where, you know, we see that he has hypnotized a load of Gotham citizens here. You know, that these citizens will become flyers, and then they will become dyers, and will become splatters, I think he said. And it's just that it becomes so much bigger. And again, Tetch isn't giving Jim a choice as to how he could even save these people. And we have Harvey then listening to WZPZ radio. He's flicking through all the radio channels to see which one had broadcast the hypnotic tones of Jervis Tetch. It's funny because until the radio thing, I was thinking, you know, how did he hypnotize all these people? And I was wondering whether it was something to do with Crane, that maybe instead of some kind of fear toxin, he had done another toxin that he'd released, which meant that they were suggestive in greater numbers to Jervis Tetch.
Right.
I think also one final thing that we do have to pick out here, and that is the Birdie song after Tetch has driven off. The newlywed couple are no more, lying underneath the wrecking ball, and all the heavies that Tetch has hypnotized, and who eventually go up into the building as well to essentially walk off at the stroke of midnight. They suddenly release Harvey and Jim because they've been there to really protect Tetch, and start clucking.
Yes.
I really like the chicken element that Gotham brings to the show. There really is a love of hens, chickens, and cockerels in this show, and I just thought that was hilarious. It was totally weird and totally kooky.
And totally Gotham.
Yeah.
In fact,
it was so good.
In fact, as Enigma would say, that is so Gotham. The writers know that we are all looking out for the chickens, as they've appeared in every season since the start. The last time we saw chickens in the show, one was being held in Bruce Wayne's dream by Harvey Bullock. So he gets the chicken line in this episode. Really, really good stuff. Really enjoyed this, but also love the fact that we're seeing Harvey Bullock and Jim Gordon working together in the show, that come back together again after Jim's incident last episode.
Definitely.
Nice to see Harvey again repeating to Jim that when he's standing in front of the GCPD, they need the strong Jim Gordon, even though Jim doesn't feel like their real leader. He feels like a different person now. All the stuff that he was spouting in the past about being the real knight that Gotham needs, he doesn't feel like he can stand up to that anymore because of what he did with Professor Pig and the fact that he was involved in the whole situation and none of them know about it. So really nice that we see Harvey and Jim having that complicated relationship again.
I think it's a really nice evolution of these two characters. You know, we have the moment where they're sharing a whiskey towards the end, really where Jim is saying, I underestimated you. I had so many preconceptions about you when he's speaking to Harvey. I thought I knew you, and I'm beginning to find, with the heroism that Harvey Bullock made and put himself in jeopardy, that Jim realizes there's more to this lovable, if slightly corrupt and slightly morally ambiguous cop than meets the eye. And Harvey says here, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I really like this aspect of Harvey's character. We know he was involved with Fish Mooney. We know he's done things that he's not liked to do, and he's had to swallow his pride. He's made poor decisions. He's a drinker. He's a Pepto-Bismol addict, but also he will try and save people. And I like Harvey saying, he could only do these crazy things because he knows that Jim is there, and Jim is always out to protect. And ultimately, from his personal point of view, that he knew Jim would try and save him.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The touch here where Jim actually finds a way to save the members of Gotham, it's almost like this could be the tagline for what the city of Gotham needs to do. This idea of save each other, as Jim speaks that out over the microphones, which is broadcast to the city and gets the people to stop each other from jumping off the buildings. It does feel like if the citizens of Gotham would work together more often, they wouldn't have the horrible time that they have where everybody is left to their own devices and the villains come in and break them all apart and create what we see in Gotham. So I really like this idea that that's where Jim goes to save each other, not just yourself, is kind of the concept that comes in from Jim. Really nice touch from the writer here.
Yeah, a really good workaround to that impossible situation that Tetch seemingly has put Jim in, that they will jump from the buildings on the strike of 12, or that the next person's voice who tries to talk them off the edge of the building to save themselves, that they will jump as well.
Yeah, really nice touches. Good stuff. That's probably the main portion of the episode, but loads of other stuff going on. Let's go on to our next case note.
Yeah, Bruce and Selina team up. I really, really enjoyed this.
So good.
Really good to see Bruce leaning on Selina here, and also Selina giving him a bit of reality in terms of his ego. I just thought it was so nicely played, because I mean, in effect, as we will come to with case note 4, Bruce actually, what he's trying to do is recapture Jerome. He knows that Jerome Valeska has escaped from Arkham. They have this really shared history from the previous season. Bruce feels personally responsible. It feels it's his own duty to go and capture Jerome Valeska and bring him back to Arkham or to the GCPD. And I really like the fact that Selina is constantly saying, you have to remember that you're not responsible for everything. And I love the moment where she says, make sure you're not too responsible, because otherwise that will get you killed.
Yeah.
And she's the dose of reality as well here, I think, because ultimately Bruce's intervention has the absolute opposite effect of what he intended. In some ways, if he had let Uncle Zach, Jerome's uncle, to effectively kill him, there would be no Jerome Valeska. And instead, Uncle Zach gets killed. There is a casualty here.
Yeah.
And Jerome manages to escape the diner that he's in. So I think there is guidance here from Selina in the same way that Alfred has provided him guidance as well. And in this case, Selina is really teaching him the street. She's saying that, just step back sometimes, because actually he would get more achieved than what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, I do love that this is Selina's character. She's never one to sit back and not tell Bruce what she thinks of him and give her piece of advice for him. There is a great moment in this early scenes when we have the two of them go into the GCPD to go into Jim Gordon's office to get the file on Jerome Valeska to find out, can they possibly save him without the GCPD or in addition to the GCPD? And we see Officer Harper arrive at the outside of the office, and Bruce has to divert her attention so that she can't see Selina inside. I love that Bruce is building on the lessons that he learned from Alfred last season, where he has to play a part and play a role, and we see him play 3 different versions of Bruce Wayne here. We see him play the arrogant Bruce Wayne, where he's going I know Jerome Velasca broke out of Arkham Asylum to come after me, and Harper's kind of going, don't kid yourself, kid.
Yeah.
He's got a lot more on his plate than just you. And then when that doesn't work, he changes to the rich Bruce Wayne, where he's going, is it money that you want? And tries to bribe her, which gets her back up. And then he turns into the whining billionaire Bruce Wayne, who says he's afraid, he's scared, and starts to put on the waterworks just to distract her. This isn't really his thoughts, obviously, but I like that he goes through those different versions of the character that we've seen build over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's a really nice iteration of this same character, and it sees the evolution of Bruce really deploying his knowledge in Gotham, and it's really nice. And at the same time, though, I like the fact that in effect, he's still got so much to learn about the streets of Gotham. And I think that's what Selina introduces here. And that's why their team ups, I think, are so important. You know, she's been on the street all her life. She has absolutely been a survivor. She's been canny. And she is also trying to impart a bit of that streetwise cred onto Bruce Wayne so that he understands the streets, he understands how villains operate, which will be another string to that bow of him becoming Batman.
Exactly. Can't finish up this point on Bruce and Selina without talking about that moment in the car just after she talks about Bruce's ego being huge. And we have a little homage, will we say, to Spider-Man Homecoming?
I think there's a lot of Marvel references, and by a lot I mean two, in this episode of Gotham. And definitely there is the Tony Stark moment with Peter Parker from Spider-Man Homecoming. It looks as though Bruce is about to kiss Selina, he's reaching across over her, and then he opens up the car door to effectively let her out. And she lets out a good old sarcastic laugh here, and a bit of a sigh at the same time. And it does mirror that moment where Tony Stark is reaching across Peter Parker, seemingly to sort of give him a hug, tell him well done, but opens the door and asks him to get out the car because they're about to move on and go separate ways. And in this moment in the episode in Gotham, then you have Selina and Bruce separating together as Bruce goes after Jerome on his own.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go on to case note number 4. Goldie, Jerome and the Three Bears, would we call this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too sure why the 3 bowls of soup were there. I see that it links in with the episode title, but did his uncle put them there at gunpoint? Or did he just serve up 3 bowls of soup to Jerome?
His uncle calls out the fact that Jerome hasn't noticed why there would be 3 bowls of soup there. So I think Jerome must have arrived and was looking for food from his uncle, and his uncle served 3 bowls of soup instead of 2. And that's where the point comes later on. Did you not notice that we have another guest here? The strong man from the circus, I think he calls him Lunk, who has arrived to beat holy hell out of Jerome Velasca, basically. So that's the reason for the 3 bowls.
Yeah, eventually you get the reason. Yeah. But ultimately I was wondering, why did he put 3 bowls of soup out there? Was it at gunpoint? Was he suggesting he eat the 3 bowls of soup whilst at gunpoint? Were the 3 bowls of soup already there? But nonetheless, we realise that actually, even though it looks as though there are just Jerome and Zach in the diner, there is a third person as well. And indeed, one of the soups is getting a little cold for Zach's liking, and so heats up in a really dodgy microwave, actually, heats up the bowl of soup, because we learned that actually Zach, his uncle Zach, used to also batter and abuse Jerome as a kid by putting his hands into boiling chicken stock.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? They seem to be taking pains here to make Jerome a little bit more sympathetic than the crazy character that we've had in the past. It's like as if they're kind of going, but this was someone that abused him as a kid, so he's able to do all of this abuse back on him. He's trying to feed him bleach, effectively, before shooting him in the head with a gun, and then he tells Bruce, when I was a kid and abused by him, nobody ever stepped in. Thanks. to Bruce when Bruce arrives to stop this beating that's going on, or stop this abuse that's going on in Jerome. So it's quite interesting to have a little moment with Jerome where you hear about his past, firstly, and secondly, that the beatings were relentless when he was a child as well. I think that's quite interesting, a nice touch for Jerome to get a little bit more about who he is. Because over and over again, what we've seen with Jerome is the craziness creeps in. Even the first episode that he appeared in, we saw the rug being pulled out from under us when we realise he is the murderer, he is the killer, he has the craziness already in him.
Just so much inherent craziness here, and it really just comes spewing out in this diner. And again, we see then he gets this information from his uncle Zach, and you are kind of going, okay, who is at the school of Saint Ignatius? And there's a reference in this where he goes, she picked it. And presumably, is that his mother, maybe his auntie, or who was this woman that picked the school of Saint Ignatius? Presumably a boarding school where someone unknown is residing. But is it a teacher? Is it a pupil? Is it some kind of other worker at the school? It's really interesting to kind of know who is at the school of St. Ignatius.
In our show notes, I have underlined theory time at this moment.
It really is theory time.
We have been told that Jerome Velasquez, for every season since season 1, he is not the Joker. So I have a feeling that this is his brother, where his mother left his twin brother, or potentially his cousin, who is the son of Zach, potentially, was put into the school of St. Ignatius. So I have a feeling we do have another J in the family of Jerome.
And there may be a crazy family trait that runs through this family, because in fairness, Uncle Zach was pretty nuts as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, okay, on the face of it, upstanding member of the local business community, serving cops and punters alike with, sunny side up eggs and some rashers of bacon and stacks of pancakes. But beneath that, bubbling beneath the surface of this green soup, was a bit of a psychopath as well. So it looks here as though there is a bit of a family trait in the Velasquez family.
Yeah.
That actually they're all slightly nuts.
Yes.
So presumably whoever is there has been put there to insulate them from this nuttiness.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, or take them away from it. Yeah, absolutely. I do like that Jerome calls out that when they were kids, they tried to break into Zach's kitchen, and he took Jerome's hand, put it into boiling hot chicken broth, and then made him eat the soup. So that gave me a little bit of speculation. And Bill Meeks, if you're still listening from Legends of Gotham, you might like my speculation, because, look, it's not exactly the same, and it's not the same name as the character from the comic books, but he is using condiments, utensils, to attack his victims. Is Zach Jerome's uncle? Is Zach, Jerome's uncle, the Condiment King, or Gotham's version of the Condiment King, John?
He could be.
I was waiting for him to shoot out some ketchup and some mustard attacking Jerome.
A squirt of fiery mustard into the eye can disable any attacker.
Yeah.
A selection of hot chili sauces within the clothing of an adversary will make them go running to hospital immediately, take them out of the picture.
Yeah.
So he could be a condiment king. He certainly is a condiment king in his own right, in that he buys plenty of condiments for his diner.
Yes, not anymore, unfortunately. He does take a bullet to the head in this episode.
Yes.
But if we were going to get a condiment king, this would have been the moment, really, wouldn't it?
Yes, I think so. Soup to the face, boiling soup to the face, a ribeye to the gut, all manner of things. A barrel of cabbages dropped from an unholy height definitely would disarm any foe.
No, that's the vegetable king, John.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Anyway, back to the scene at the diner. I do love that Bruce is really able to handle himself against Lunk, the strong man from the circus. That's really good, because he has to have moments where he's overpowered by people that look far more powerful and far more capable than him. He's not winning the fight as such, but he's keeping himself alive until we see the arrival of Selina with her whip in tow as she takes the gun from Jerome's hands.
Oh, a great moment that. Absolutely loved her taking the gun out of Jerome's hand. And unlike Bruce, is willing to go after someone that she sees as a threat. And she, again, she pulls this out to say, you should have gone after him because, as we said before, the absolute opposite of what Bruce wanted to happen happened. Jerome is again free and escaped and running and in the wind on the streets of Gotham. He is at large again. And I think, she really is kind of saying you need to actually do what you want to do here.
Yeah.
And it's, it is being driven by Bruce's feelings of failure of not dispatching Jerome when he could have done in the mirrored hall at the circus. Potentially.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not...
he had the opportunity with some of the mirrored glass ready to kill him, and he decided against it. Again, is there an element here where he doesn't want to do that? He doesn't want to have those feelings, but actually maybe it was the right thing to do. And it's certainly what Selina was looking to do. She gets a shot off,
yes,
and she tries to shoot him again. Again, in that moment, Bruce races to stop Selina from shooting and almost seemingly runs past Jerome, who escapes out the door. And I do think, if I had been Bruce, I would have tried to have stopped Jerome, because hopefully then Selina would not fire whilst I was there, and then you could take him back to Arkham. So I did wonder whether that felt right in a sense, but I did like the reasons for it.
Yeah, I think it's more important for Bruce that he protects Selina from going down the path that he went down after killing Ra's. That has been the arc of Bruce for the last season and a half. He killed someone, and therefore he went down this path where he pushed everybody away from him. He was in a deep, deep spiral. So this moment when Selina is about to kill Jerome, rather than protect him or rather than take him back into custody, as you say, that is the worst thing that could happen to Bruce, because it is his closest friend about to take a step beyond what he would ever be willing to do again. So we have seen the creation of Bruce Wayne, who doesn't kill the villain, regardless of what the outcome is. But it's really important, as has always been the case with the Batman character. If he doesn't kill someone, that means they may be out in the streets in the future and may endanger lives. Does that mean that he has to turn into the killer to stop them endangering lives? That's where the essential question always comes from Batman not being a killer, I suppose. So I like they've kept this here. Obviously, they will continue to keep this, but the point from Bruce running across the room to stop Selina is that it's actually more important that he stops her killing someone than it is him catching Jerome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm totally on board. I think maybe it was just with the setup of where these characters were. If Bruce had been flung the other side of the diner by Lunk or something during the fight, and then Selina comes in and rescues him by whipping out the pistol from Jerome's hand, and then tries to shoot him, and Bruce could have lifted it and moved him away, and you could run out the door. I think it was the fact that you were having to run past Bruce, in effect, and Bruce run past Jerome, past the doorway, in order to stop Selina kill. But absolutely agree, Bruce, I think, has learned his lesson about the death of people and murdering them, and that's not the road he wants to go down after his encounter with Ra's al Ghul, which we will come to in a moment. But before that, the interesting thing that we get here then is that, in fact, Jerome, Jervis, and Scarecrow, whilst they have gone off and done different things, are not doing it separately from one another. This is a plan, a combined plan. Jervis Tetch is the red herring. He is the one keeping the GCPD occupied, Jim occupied, whilst Jerome gets this bit of information from his uncle, and whilst Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, is off getting his fear toxin, which he uses to release Jervis Tetch from captivity from the back of the GCPD van.
Absolutely. Did you notice we got our new Jonathan Crane Scarecrow outfit at the end of this episode as well, John?
We did indeed.
Very cool. Looking very like something from the Nolan films and even the Arkham games, actually. Some really, really cool seeing the brand new costume for our brand new Scarecrow in the show.
Definitely.
So, as we mentioned, once again, releasing Jerome back into the city has had consequences for Bruce Wayne. If Bruce had stopped them, if Selene had shot him, then perhaps Jervis wouldn't be free in the city. Perhaps Jonathan Crane would have gone off on his own. But by Bruce releasing him back into the city, more consequences.
Yes, but not only do we get our evil Holy Trinity escape from Arkham, we see, as you say, the new Scarecrow outfit, but we also, moving on to our case note 5, we see a new person in Barbara Keene, in Babs. She is the Demon's Head, and she will command the League of Shadows.
I totally wanted you to do your Bane impression there, John.
I am the League of Shadows.
I now no longer want you to do your Bane impression, John.
Absolutely. I think I went a little squeaky. Tom Hardy no doubt would headbutt me for that impersonation.
You have been watching too much of Peaky Blinders as well.
I think I may have done, yes. But certainly, I love this coming together in Babs's memory. She's been trying to resist it, and this has been the cause of all the pain, the headaches, the migraines that she thought she was having. And Tabitha is the one ultimately that releases her here to say, confront it. You know, you're wondering what's going on. You wonder what happened to you. And yet maybe these implanted memories that you feel that you have in her will be able to tell you, and it will stop the pain. Why don't you try and access them? And with this comes the revelation that in fact she is the new Demon's Head, and the League of Shadows are being called by this beacon of light emanating from her hands.
I love that it's Tabitha that calls her out, and she's brutal about it. She's going, "You're not the Barbara that I know. The Barbara that I know wouldn't let anything stand in her way, let alone pain. That's nothing to you." And I love that the flashback that she has in her head to give her all this information about Ra's bringing her back to life kind of conveniently leaves out the fact that it was Tabitha that electrocuted her in the first place. She just starts at the point that she's being electrocuted. And it's not showing Tabitha on the other side of the room laughing maniacally as she finally kills Barbara for killing Butch, who has also returned from the dead. But I just like that moment that it's Tabitha that talks her back into it, but they decide not to show us the moment that she was killed by that, at that final confrontation and showdown between Tabitha and Babs.
Yeah, you don't see the final showdown between the two of them, but you do see her getting electrocuted.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see then Ra's al Ghul taking up Babs's body, laying her down and giving her some of the Lazarus water and resurrecting her with the promise, with the prophecy that she will become the Demon's Head, that they are both cut from the same cloth.
Yes.
They are both understood, but that they are both ruthless in the pursuit of what they want.
Yeah, really interesting, pointing out that there has been no female leader of the League of Shadows. This version in Gotham really has been led by Ra's al Ghul since he was brought back from the dead. I think it was 2,000 years ago, wasn't it, when we saw that back in one of the earlier episodes. He's been the leader of the League of Shadows for many, many years. He's now dead, and she is the first person taking over from him. There have been leaders before him, previous to that, but never a female leader. We have seen the League of Shadows over on the Arrowverse. It's quite a central part of some of the earlier seasons of Arrow, where Talia al Ghul was a leader of the League of Shadows. So they've had a female leader over on the Arrowverse, but we know they're not connected to Gotham, but just quite interesting to point out the connections between those characters as well.
Yeah, and we finally also then see the League of Shadows arrive.
Yes.
And then get slaughtered by the ladies of the League. And I have to say, I did love Babs saying, well, there's not much of a league now, which was really, really funny. But the Sisters of the League said they are only the tip of the spear, and
yes,
that more will flock to them. That under the banner of Babs, with Tabs by her right-hand side with the Sisters of the League. So this is really shaping up to be pretty cool, I think.
I really enjoyed that moment. As the sisters say, it is the mission of the League of Shadows to cull weakness, and you as our new leader have just called out all the men in the room as being weak, so we slaughtered them. But yeah, it did absolutely make me laugh when Barbara said, "You've given me an army and now they're all dead." Fabulous. Great moment. And finally, we get our proper answer to what happened to Babs when she got that transference from Ra's al Ghul. So she has been bequeathed the League of Shadows. I don't know still, does that mean is he still inside her, or is it just that he's passed this mantle on top of her with these memories? So it'd be really interesting to find out. And again, another huge change from being the alcoholic socialite that she was back in season 1 of Gotham for Barbara Keane. Great to see these moves for the character. Really, really cool.
Definitely. I think we can move on to our notes. Are there any notes for this episode of Gotham?
I only have one note for this episode of Gotham. Just that moment when Harvey and Jim are having their big talk over the whiskey that is being poured out from the filing cabinet where Harvey keeps it. Just like a squirrel during winter who keeps nuts to keep them going, Harvey always stashes some whiskey to keep himself going. I like that moment that Harvey calls out, feet of clay are heavy to carry around. That's what the whiskey's for. Is this a reference to Jim formerly being Clayface?
Or is he Clayface now?
Or is he Clayface now? Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know where Clayface is.
We don't. He's certainly still around. But where is he? Mm-hmm. And who is he impersonating?
That would be fun to see him back as Jim. He was a fab in those moments. Really, really good stuff. That's my only note for the episode that we've already talked about. The other notes that we have, John, do you have any other ones?
No, I don't. But my Gotham moment of the week is unfortunately the Wedding Crasher. Or maybe not. I have to say, I thought it was just really, really good. It's not what I was expecting. Yes. I was expecting that double jeopardy, what to do, where to go, who to save, and yeah, it just fell on them.
It was a real shocking surprise. And just like Jim, and just like you, John, it was that moment where you're going, oh, they've kind of done this before. Kind of interesting that he's setting it all back up in place again, setting the dominoes back up like he did. Oh, he's not. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is your Gotham character of the week, or do we have another Gotham character of the week?
I think it's Uncle Zach. I think you really got a sense that he was a bit crazy in this, and I liked how he played it. You know, up against Jerome, that's big acting chops to act with, and for a character that for 4 seasons is on for maybe 10 minutes, and really having to deliver like an intrinsic part of the storyline here with the knowledge of the School of St. Ignatius. He really put across that he had abused Jerome, that actually was more malevolent than what we thought he was going to be right at the start, where, you know, Jerome's got him at gunpoint. So you kind of think he is the victim here. Yeah. And he is, but you realize that it's not all black and white here. And I think, again, it just adds to that complexity of Jerome, that he's crazy, and he's crazy as anything, but it's gone past having any sympathy for him, but he's had a bad childhood.
Yes, yeah.
You know? Yeah. But he's gone way too far to be mended in that sense.
Absolutely, yeah. Really good character of the week. Obviously, we tend not to choose the big major characters of the week. Of course, this is Jervis Tetch's episode. Great to see him back. Great to see that he's actually doing a bit of a half-arsed plan just to keep Jim interested and keep the GCPD away from what's going on with Jerome and with Scarecrow. So it's quite interesting. If he had succeeded in killing hundreds and hundreds of people in Gotham, what would that have done? Would there have been a huge effect on Jim or not? But it was just a diversionary tactic. Nice choice in this episode. John, how would you rate this episode of Gotham?
I would give this 5 squashed bridal couples out of 5.
Get in there. 3 for 3, Ben McKenzie.
Yeah, no, I'm really liking it when Ben McKenzie takes on the reins of whether it's writing or as a director. And I think here, again, a huge amount to do. A little twist at the end, seeing that these 3 villains that have escaped from Gotham aren't going their separate ways. even though it looks like that's what they're doing, you kind of thought that their whole plan together was just to escape from Arkham. And then in the end, you see them coming back together. And you have the intrigue of St. Ignatius. You've got Scarecrow fully powered up now with his fear toxin. And again, you have some really great moments between Jim and Harvey in terms of their continued sort of reconciliation from their big spat, as well as having Bruce still very much on a journey of learning, and then this time from Selina, who comes to the rescue to save him. I just thought it was really, really good. I love Jervis Tetch. Just his whole demeanor is so well done, and absolutely loved him in this. Scarecrow as well, one of my favorites. We didn't see too much of him in this episode, but you know he's going to play a big part. Jerome, again, wild, crazy. And I think, again, his uncle's diner, all that moment in there with his uncle Zach, with Selina, with Lunk, with Bruce, and with Jerome, it's a really great scene, and there's just a lot of intrigue here going on. You know, Harvey and Jim think they've saved the day here, but this is only one part in a much bigger plan, which we will have play out over the next 6 episodes, and I'm really, really looking forward to it being big, grand, and absolutely nutty.
Yeah, and can I also say the choice of the writers and Ben McKenzie for this episode as the director to not have this be just Jerome's episode was a great choice. He has got great scenes in there, as always. Cameron Monaghan is fantastic, but this isn't the Jerome show, it's the Gotham show, and the more they choose to have many stories going on, other things going on around the Jerome character, or even have Jerome as a kind of a side character in some of the scenes, dealing with some of the other characters like Bruce and Selina, that's the best choice for the show, really, for me. I really like that you're able to have such other big characters in there surrounding Jerome and it not be overtaken by him in the episode. But really good to see Cameron Monaghan back on air and all of the other villains and all the other heroes. Really good stuff. Let's get into our feedback for the episode, John.
Yes, over on Twitter, where you can find us at Gotham TV Podcasts, John Hammond goes, another great episode of the show. What always impresses me about Gotham is that there is always so much that is going on, with many different characters, and the writers, directors ensure that each episode runs seamlessly. Quite something when you consider. This episode was no different. So much going on, but fit it into 45 or so minutes without seeming like it was too much, and that is a credit to those involved. Completely agree with you, John, on this. I think there was almost a revelatory moment to me when I realized that what Gotham does so well is this ensemble use of characters in episodes with multiple storylines intersecting and with a grand storyline going overhead and being weaved through all these different other character stories. Some of them personal, some of them for that episode in particular, and others that connect into the larger series story that is being done. And that's when I realized that they really do ensemble very well. And I think it came when I watched an episode where really they just focused on one person. And there was an element to me where I wanted to know what was happening to Penguin. It keeps things really vibrant and really, really good. So definitely agree with you there. John goes on to say, great to see certain characters return. Great action, great performances. Ben McKenzie and Donal Logue in particular. A nice surprise and a real piece of emotion that I don't mind admitting brought a lump to my throat and a tear to my eye. Fantastic direction from Ben McKenzie. So yeah, fantastic again. Completely agree with you, John.
Thanks so much for that, John. Great to hear from your thoughts. Again, as John mentioned, we're over on Twitter at Gotham TV Podcast. Over on YouTube, Princess Kagayaki says, love your podcast. I have to agree about Lee Tompkins. To me, the choice to have her pretty much save Jim saves her from being charged with murdering, as it was to save his life. I feel like the idea with Lee is vigilantism, which is why she would help Batman later. I would have had to wonder if she would have hesitated or confronted Sophia, but since Jim was in danger, shooting her didn't seem that bad. I feel like they intentionally kept the blood off of Lee's hands. Not that I'm saying intent doesn't matter, but at the same time, they didn't have to shoot Sophia in cold blood murder. And you see why she smashes Samson's hand. It's out of justice for how the people of the Narrows are being treated. It's anger, not sadism, which to me says they wanted to keep her integrity and stay away from straying too far into the villain territory. Just my opinion on it, but I think they had Lee shoot Sophia but not kill her, even though she intended to. But I'm doubtful that she would have been able to shoot Sophia in cold blood murder if she just met up at Sophia's house the way Penguin was planning on doing. Yeah, thanks so much for that feedback. I can get what you mean by that. It's a good idea to have it as a defensive move, I suppose, for Lee, so she isn't seen as a villain. Understandable. I think we were just more surprised that Sophia was alive after the shooting because it seemed like a dead center of the head shot.
Yeah, but I like the idea that you say about keeping her integrity. She is a doctor, and I think absolutely just seeing her extract anger on Samson. He's still alive, but now he knows not to undermine her in the Narrows again. It's a brutal form of justice, but it's one that in the Narrows that seems to make sense, where it's this gang and hood mentality going on where they will stick together but stab one another in the back. And I think here she is again making her stamp. She thought she could do it with Samson by appealing to his reason and the fact of her goodwill, and she has been betrayed by that. So she's just gone up a level here, and taken out his ability to write a letter ever again, or maybe use a mobile phone. So
I can't complain to his congressman anymore.
No,
John.
absolutely. So I really think, there is an element of maintaining her integrity here, especially when you consider that Sophia is not dead. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much for that, Princess Kagiaki.
Yeah, thank you so much. We also have some Facebook feedback in for the episode as well. Remember, you can just head on over to facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV podcast. Charlotte Bain goes, "Hi guys, OMG. So one of my 3 soups is about Jerome being abused by his uncle. Pouring that boiling hot soup on him, well, that's one of the reasons why he's psycho. Jervis and his hypnotic and murderous way of rhyming is a madman or hatter. Scarecrow and Jervis are buddies. I definitely don't want to fall into their hands. It's great seeing Jim and Harvey together. They can't do without each other. I'm glad Jim apologized for being judgmental to Harvey, though. Bruce and Selina, I love them. Selina saving him pre-Catwoman and Batman was touching. Barbara has powers. She is the demon's head. She is a badass woman with the Women's League of Shadows as assassins. I am so excited about what's going to happen in the following episodes. I am loving it. Thanks so much, guys, for the podcast. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for that.
You're awesome, Charlotte. Thank you.
You are, absolutely. It's really nice to get that feedback on the episode as well as for the podcast. So yeah, it's really good to see that coupling of Scarecrow and Jervis, as well as then having the lone wolf that is Jerome. It's almost a bit like Jerome is the person who eats uncouthly from the front of the soup bowl, whereas Jervis and Jonathan Crane will daintily use their more refined approach to eating the soup from the back of the bowl.
Fellow Gothamites, John is motioning the action of eating the soup from the back of the bowl. I never knew that was a thing, so I'm obviously an uncouth Jeromite. Thanks so much for that, Charlotte. We also got some feedback from Caroline Wells. She says, always love it when villains are together, and it's even better when they acknowledge that they are villains. That's why Almost Gotham is one of my favourite Batman animated series episodes. Excellent episode.
Yeah, really good episode.
Good call there, Caroline. And even if the anger towards Jim was staged or not, I kind of don't blame Jervis for being pissed. Well, technically, he didn't escape from Arkham. He was kidnapped, and during that time, he didn't do anything illegal. Interesting. And he sustained a nearly lethal injury during that time by an officer. And even though he didn't have much screen time, I did enjoy Scarecrow and his polite but odd repartee with Tetch.
Yes, again, I think it's a really interesting little odd couple, as you say, and as Charlotte pointed out, between Tetch and Scarecrow. I really can't wait to see how 2 of my favourite characters maybe develop over the course of these last 6 episodes, for sure. And yeah, sometimes certainly don't blame Jervis for how he likes to focus in on Jim Gordon.
Yes, and fellow Gothamites, if you haven't seen the episode Almost Got Him from Batman the Animated Series, check it out. A good call there from Caroline. We have a little bit of voicemail feedback from Claire Payne.
Yes, you can send in your voicemail by heading on over to GothamTVPodcast.com and clicking on the right-hand tab on the side of the computer screen, and you can leave up to 90 seconds of your thoughts on Gotham. So please head on over and leave a voicemail.
Or you could do what Claire did and send us two, and we'll stitch them together if 90 seconds is enough, especially when the episodes are as good as they are for Gotham. We don't mind doing that at all. Take it away, Claire.
What an intense episode. It was gripping until the end. The mood and pace of this episode was brilliant, and Ben McKenzie has proved again that he's a great director. I like it when an episode starts with Arkham Asylum, and a huge bonus when you see the return of Jervis Tetch. I have two favourite characters this week, Mr. Crane and Mr. Tetch. Even though they are working with Jerome, there was an amazing friendship and charm between them. Scarecrow's new costume, which we saw towards the end of the episode, is even more sinister and impressive, and to be honest, I would not have known it was a different actor inside the costume. Jerome doesn't disappoint, certainly interesting to see who he's looking for, and having a family connection in Gotham City. Hearing his history with his uncle and how he put his hand in a pot of boiling hot chicken stock. Bruce pretending to be upset and scared that Jerome was on the loose in front of Detective Harper was funny and a great distraction while Selina found Velasquez's file. An interesting conversation between Selina and Bruce in the car with Selina. She thinks that Bruce's ego is already big enough without having to go after Jerome. After being ejected from Bruce's car, Selina turns up to help Bruce at the diner, and now Selina is known to Jerome. Barbara finally confirmed as the Demon's Head, and a great twist on the League of Shadows. The men that stood before Barbara were weak and the ladies are strong. I really liked how Barbara actually went and did research to understand what had been happening to her since Raish passed his powers to her. Favourite scene has to be when Jim is at the radio station trying to stop hundreds of people from jumping off the rooftops, including Harvey. By saying save each other, broke the hypnotic spell to the relief of Jim and the waiting officers at the GCPD. A fantastic end to the episode when Jerome and Scarecrow rescue Mad Hatter and Jerome is in his new threads. Favourite line is from Jerome. When I say 3 hairs past a freckle, gentlemen, I do not mean 5 hairs past. Let's do better next time. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thanks so much, as always, for that feedback, Claire. Really good to hear your thoughts on the episode. We forgot to kind of mention specifically, but yes, David W. Thompson has joined Gotham as the actor playing Jonathan Crane. We had talked about it in the past that Charlie Tahan unfortunately couldn't come back for the show. He's got tons of other stuff going on, and this show kind of looks for an actor that can come in and out for 2 or 3 episodes a season. So unfortunately, Charlie Tahan wasn't able to come back. David Thompson's doing a pretty good job, though, behind that mask, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the fact now that he is, behind the mask, then in that sense, it's about the performance covered up. And in that sense, he's giving a really good portrayal of the Scarecrow in the same way that Charlie Tahan did. So that's really good. I don't ever suspect that we will see Scarecrow's mask taken off again. Maybe I will be proven wrong, of course.
Cut to next week.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I do think, we've had cast changes before, as we've shared on this podcast. But I think, at this moment, very little to go on, but certainly it feels consistent and it feels right for the show and for the character in the way that Scarecrow is being portrayed here now by David Thompson.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved that moment of introduction as Jerome arrives, talking about the time with no watch on his arm. A nice little gag from Jerome. He always has some great lines, really, doesn't he, in the show? He always has some really interesting ones. I love the moment when he's pointing the gun at Bruce going, "Thank you, Bruce. What would be funnier? Would it be that you save me and then I kill you? Or would it be that you save me from Lunkhead and then I kill him, the man that you saved me from?" Yes, that would be funnier. I like those little moments where he has the external dialogue, I suppose.
Yeah, and just the fact that he is in the diner laughing his arse off for such a long time, whilst Bruce and Lunk are still fighting it out. is just hilarious. Because, I mean, he's in fits of giggles, laughing manically, just so good.
Yes. Really good stuff. Thanks so much for that, Claire, and thanks so much for all of the feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire, for the voicemail. It's really good to hear your thoughts. And thank you as well to everyone who's left feedback on this episode and any episode of Gotham.
I think we should record later next week, John, and every week from now on, because we always seem to get loads of feedback in after the episode has aired, a couple of days after. But not every episode is as big as this one as well. So great to hear your thoughts. We'll be recording again on Saturday. So if you've watched the episode on Thursday night, send in your thoughts and we'll include them in the next episode.
Absolutely. If you want to listen to our thoughts, or indeed your own thoughts, voiced by us or indeed voiced by yourself, then please listen, subscribe, rate and leave a review of Gotham TV Podcast on the podcast catcher of your choice, whether that be good or evil. You can just head on over to gothamtvpodcast.com and go to any of the subscribe areas on there and search Gotham TV Podcast. And once you've done all that, we will be back next week with Gotham: A Dark Knight Season 4, Episode 17, Mandatory Brunch Meeting. So, yes, I like it. Hopefully it's Eggs Benedict. Yum, yum.
Although knowing Gotham, it's probably poisoned eggs for Benedict, maybe.
Yes, I think so.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yes, absolutely. As always, thank you so much for listening. It has been a pleasure. I'm going to ditch this weirdo. He's been giving me the heebie-jeebies all through this podcast. Not really. Obviously, I don't mean that. And we will speak with you again soon. Bye.
Your ego is huge.
No. Bye.
Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.